The fog rolled in so thick that morning, you could barely see your own boots pressing down into the damp earth. It clung to the trees like a blanket, muting every sound and making even the familiar trail ahead look foreign. We'd set out early, packs on our shoulders and canteens full, but it didn't take long before the world seemed to vanish into shifting grey. You couldn't tell where the sky ended and the ground began. Each pine, each oak loomed out of the haze like a shadowy figure, half seen and gone again when you blinked. The air was heavy with the smell of wet leaves and moss, the kind of scent that seeps into your clothes and skin, reminding you you're deep in the wild. There were 4 of us, me, my buddy Luke, and 2 others who weren't as seasoned with long hikes. The fog unsettled them. I could hear it in the way they whispered, their voices carrying strange in the muffled air. Luke, always the joker, muttered something about us stumbling across a ghost town or walking straight into the past, and though he said it with a grin, I caught the edge of nervousness in his tone. Truth be told, I felt it too. Every snapping twig in the distance sounded like footsteps. Every dark stump at the corner of vision looked like it might move. The trail markers were harder to spot. Faint blazes of paint that could vanish if you lost focus for even a moment. Yet with the unease came something else. Beauty you'd never notice on a clear day. Spiderwebs strung across branches glittered with beads of mist, like strands of silver. Drops of water clung to ferns and glowed when the pale light pushed through. At one point, we stumbled onto a meadow we'd never have noticed otherwise, the fog curling low over the grasses, making the place look enchanted. A small herd of deer stood there, no more than 50 feet away, their bodies half swallowed in the haze. They didn't bolt. They just watched us with calm, shining eyes, their shapes ghostly and quiet. For a long breath, none of us moved. It was as if the forest was holding its own secret ceremony, and we were just lucky enough to witness it. But just spooking the newer hikers. But then I heard it too. A faint splash, like water shifting somewhere close, though there was no stream marked on our map. The sound came again, closer this time, and it carried the sharpness of something deliberate, like a step taken in water. We scanned the fog, but the world beyond 10 yards might as well not have existed. Branches bent and straightened as if touched, though no wind stirred. One of the others muttered nervously about wild hogs, and I could see the white of her knuckles on her trekking pole. We moved on, slowly, tighter now, the way a herd draws close when it feels watched. My heart was beating louder than the crunch of my boots, every muscle braced for a charge from out of the grey. And then, just as quick, the tension shifted into awe. We reached a stand of birch trees, their pale trunks glowing ghost-like through the fog. And the splash we'd been hearing revealed itself. A narrow creek wound between the roots, hidden until you nearly stepped into it. Over the water, spider lilies had bloomed, their delicate white petals glistening with droplets. The whole place looked unreal, like something painted rather than grown. One of the younger hikers whispered, "It's beautiful." And for a moment, fear loosened its grip. But even beauty can carry a warning. Across the creek, the mud was torn up with deep tracks, fresh and heavy. Bear tracks. The kind that make your stomach drop when you realize just how close they must have been. Maybe still were. The fog swirled over the prints, hiding them again as if the forest wanted to keep its secret. Luke crouched, touched the edge of one paw print, and looked up at me with a face that didn't need words. We all knew. We weren't alone out there. The air felt tighter after that. The fog less like mist and more like something alive, watching. Every step past the creek seemed like an intrusion, as if we'd crossed into a part of the woods meant to remain unseen. I remember thinking how thin the line was between what do we do? Now, I've had enough miles in the backcountry to know panic is more dangerous than the animals themselves. But it's one thing to say it, another to feel it, standing there with fog curling around your knees and not knowing if the next shadow is a tree or a predator. "Stay calm," I whispered, raising my hand for quiet. "No sudden moves, just keep walking steady." My voice felt thin against the weight of the mist. We pressed on, every step deliberate. I scanned the tree line constantly, looking for the shape that wasn't a tree, the shadow that moved when the others stood still. Once, I thought I saw it, a hulking mass just off the trail, but then the fog shifted and it was gone. The others were tense, breaths coming fast, and I could feel the air thick with that invisible tug of war between fear and focus. And then, as if the forest wanted to remind us of its dual nature, the fog opened briefly onto a hidden pond. Its surface was glass smooth, perfectly still, ringed with reeds that dripped with dew. A heron stood there, tall and silent, its slate blue feathers blending into the haze. For a moment, it felt like stepping into a dream, beauty so sharp it almost hurt. The bird lifted off, wings cutting through the mist with slow, graceful strokes, and vanished into the whiteness. But the spell broke with another grunt, this time louder, closer behind us. I turned, scanning desperately, but the fog gave nothing away. Just grey, shifting, endless. That's when it hit me. Whatever was out there, it wasn't just passing through. It was following us. The feeling of being followed sank into our bones like cold water. Every few steps we'd hear it, the scrape of claws on bark, the crack of underbrush, the heavy exhale of a large animal moving in rhythm with us, but always out of sight. The fog kept it hidden, a ghost with weight, and that was worse than seeing it outright. We tightened into a cluster without saying a word, shoulders brushing as we walked, the quiet broken only by our uneven breathing. At one point, the trail narrowed. The fear, we stumbled into another scene of unexpected beauty. A slope of wildflowers opened at the side of the trail, their colours muted but glowing in the soft light. Purples, yellows, whites, each petal beaded with dew. The flowers swayed gently, though no breeze touched us, as if moved by some unseen hand. For a brief, fragile moment, the others forgot their fear. Even Anna smiled, her eyes wide with wonder. But beauty doesn't erase danger. From the far edge of the flowers came a sudden crash, brush snapping violently, something large surging through. The sound jolted us, and before I could think, instinct had us moving, half running down the trail. The pounding steps behind us matched our own, the fog boiling around us with each breath. My pack bounced hard against my shoulders as I pushed forward, glancing back for a glimpse. That's when I saw it. Not clearly, but enough. A massive shadow moving through the mist, low to the ground, shoulders rolling with power. Its size alone froze me mid-step. "Bear!" my mind screamed, but the fog swallowed the shape again before I could be sure. All I knew was that it was close, and it wasn't letting us go. We broke into a clearing just as panic was about to splinter us. The fog thinned a little in that open space, and for the first time in hours I could see more than a few yards ahead. The trail cut across a ridge, sloping down toward a valley where the mist pooled heavy as smoke. Behind us, the crashing had stopped. We stood there, gasping, hearts thundering, waiting for the next sound, the charge, the grunt, the unmistakable presence of whatever had shadowed us. But nothing came. Just silence, deep and uneasy. The kind that makes you wonder if you were ever in danger at all, or if the forest was simply playing with you. Luke crept to the tree line, scanning. When he motioned us over, we found them. Prints in the damp earth, clearer than the ones at the creek. Big, round claw marks etched sharp into the mud. Bare, no question, and fresh enough that the edges still glistened with moisture. We stood over those tracks for a long time into story. Anna admitted her legs have been shaking so badly she thought she'd fall. Luke joked that he was ready to fight the fog beast bare-handed, and we all laughed, though the sound held a nervous edge. In truth, none of us would forget those sounds, the grunt in the mist, the pounding steps, the prints that proved what we hadn't seen. And as I stared into the flames, I found myself thinking about the line we'd walked that day, the razor's edge between beauty and danger. In the fog, the two had lived side by side, deer moving like spirits, flowers glowing with dew, and the unseen shadow of a bear trailing just behind. Out there, you learn quickly that the wild doesn't separate its gifts from its threats. You take both, and if you're lucky, you carry them home as a story instead of a scar.